Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello students, welcome back to this channel, Kuliah Teknokrat, with me, Ms. Dyah, to learn about educational philosophy. So today, we are going to talk about the last topic in educational philosophy. It is about modern humanism and education. Before we go any further, let me tell you the objectives of today's material. So, in the end of this subject and in the end of this study, you are expected to be able to define the meaning of humanism and then describe humanisms in Renaissance era. And then the next, you are expected to be able to mention the principles of modern humanisms. And the last, you are expected to be able to explain the implications of modern humanisms for education. Now, let's begin with the introductions. So, humanisms in philosophy and in educations can be traced in the writing of all educational philosophers from Plato until today. But in this topic, we will only be talking and projecting some of the essentials of modern humanism as a philosophy, along with their educational implications in the present-day context. There will be 4 subtopics in today's sessions. The first is about the definitions of humanisms, and then the second about humanisms and Renaissance era, and then the third about the principles of modern humanisms, and the last is about the implications of modern humanisms for education. And now, let's start from the definitions. Humanisms is actually very old philosophy. It has been interpreted in various ways, such as a reasonable balance in life and then a vivid interest in all sides of life, freedom from religiosity, and then responsiveness to all human passions, a philosophy which holds that man is the center and measure all activities. Humanism as a philosophy has its definite conceptions of man, human problems, and universe. The terms of humanism was used first by the 16th century writers and scholars of the European Renaissance. And today, this term is used to convey a philosophical belief which believes in rendering service for the greater good of all humanity according to the demands of reason and democracy. Now, from the definitions that, we now go to the era which is highly related to humanism. It is called Renaissance era. Now, let's talk about the relations between humanism and Renaissance. So, humanism, as I've told you in the beginning, is strongly related to Renaissance era. During this era, humanism played a major role in education. So there are a lot of practitioners of humanism during this era believed that human beings could be dramatically changed by education. And then the humanists of the Renaissance created schools to teach their ideas and wrote books all about education. And then humanists sought to create a society able to speak and also write with fluency and clarity. it was capable of engaging in the civic life of their communities and persuading others to noble and wise actions. This was to be accomplished through the study of the humanities. There are several studies in this era, such as grammar, and then also the rhetoric, history, poetry, and moral philosophy. During this era, the humanists believed that it was important to go beyond to the afterlife with a perfect mind and also body, which could be attained with educations. And then the purpose of humanism in Renaissance era was to create a universal man whose person combined intellectual and physical excellence and who was capable of functioning honorably in virtually any situations. Education in the Renaissance era was mainly composed of ancient literature and history, as it was thought that the classics provided moral instructions and an intensive understanding of human behavior. The educational curriculum of humanism spread throughout Europe during the 16th century, as I've told you before. And it became the educational foundation for the schooling of European elites and then the functionaries of political administrations and then the clergy of the various legally recognized churches and then the learned professionals of law and medicines. So that's all the relations and also the apply of humanism in Renaissance era. After you know about the definitions and also the relations between humanisms and also the era of Renaissance, now let's talk about the principles of modern humanisms. So what are they? Let's find out. The first principles of modern humanism is that humanism does not believe in supernaturalisms. So it regards nature as a system of constantly changing events. Hence, the universe exists independently of any mind. The second, humanism believes in science and thinks that man being a product of nature is a part of it. Man's body and personality are inseparable. Hence, he does not survive after death. The next principle of modern humanism is that humanism considers that human thinking is a result of the interactions between the complex living organisms and the environment. The next principle, humanism thinks that man is competent to solve all his problems on the basis of his own reason and scientific method. The fifth principle, humanism believes that man is the maker and also the master of his own destiny. The next principle is humanism thinks that man's happiness lies in this world. For the achievement of this happiness, he should be made free in this world to progress culturally, economically, and ethically. The seventh principle, humanism wants to make man free to have the highest aesthetic experience of art and beauty. And then the last principle is humanism stands for national and international democracy in order to establishing an everlasting peace in the world. So that's the principles of modern humanisms. So we have talked about the definitions and also the relations of humanisms and Renaissance era, and then we also talked about the principle of humanisms and how humanisms applied in education in Renaissance era. So now let's talk about the implications of modern humanism for education itself. So according to the ethics of the humanisms, schools, colleges, universities, and research institutions will benefit greatly from the enlarged financial resource of the state, because these units of the society will be regarded as the centers from which will flow all that is good and needed for the good of mankind. And then, new facilities will be made available for the advancements of all individuals, irrespective of caste, color, and then creed and sex, rich and poor, high and low, dull and brilliant. In all the educational effort, the importance will be also social rather than only individualistic. The next implications is that from this what I've already mentioned before, this will imply more emphasis on the study of social studies such as sociology and then politics and economics. Ethics will be included in the curriculum in order to help the youth to imbibe broad humanist attitudes which will imply loyalty to the social group and to the mankind. The teaching of science and scientific method will be greatly emphasized, and then the students will also be taught to learn how to think rather than to memorize individual facts. There will be no oppositions between science and also the humanities. Both will receive due attention without excluding any. And then, in the humanist educational program, an attempt will be made to spread a fundamental awareness of literature and also art, so that they may be able to appreciate and assimilate the good and the beautiful of life. This does not mean lowering the standard of literature and art, but of raising the cultural standard of the people to unprecedented levels. Thus, there will be a huge extension of the institutional facilities from the primary education stage to the adult level. The next implication is that the administrations of all types of schools, colleges, and other educational institutions will be governed according to the democratic principles. There will be academic freedom to all. And teachers and also students will be free to establish and also to join the organizations of their choice. And there will be freedom of thought in all educational institutions. In the literary, artistic, and intellectual fields, no undue pressure and penalties. And then fears and conventions will be imposed because they are likely to hurt or kill freedom of thought, opinion, and also creations. So that's the implications of modern humanisms for education. Now we have reached the end of today's sessions. Let me summarize our materials for today. So we have learned about the definitions of humanisms and then the relations of humanisms and Renaissance era, and then the next about the principles and also the aspects of humanisms, and then the last the implications of humanisms for education. So once again, humanisms is a very old philosophy. Humanism is highly or strongly related with the Renaissance era, and then humanists believed to have a good life and afterlife that should be attained by the involvement of education. Therefore, the humanists of the Renaissance era created schools to teach their ideas and wrote books all about education. So that's all about modern humanisms and educations. I hope you all understand these materials. You may also find other resources to enrich your knowledge and towards this topic and also materials. Do not forget to subscribe this channel, Kuliah Teknokrat, to stay updated with the materials from your favorite lecturers. Thank you so much. See you again on the next meeting. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.